listening to the #1 real estate podcast where we talk with real estate professionals all across the world about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sharran Street. This is a solo episode, and I'm with my main man, Sharran Srivatsaa, now the president of Real. I am so excited to chat with you today, Sharran. Like, we've been doing a ton of stuff together over the last year through Sharran Street. We've been doing, we actually met originally through Taki Moore, somebody that I love and I know that you both love. And we've had the opportunity over the last year and a half to really build a relationship. And I just loved everything that you do, from investment to, everything you're doing in real estate. That's really kind of where we got connected about a year and a half ago. I for the people that might be listening now that don't know kind of your backstory, can you give us kind of a high level overview on kind of how you got to become the president of Real today? What your backstory looks like, just kind of give people kind of some context on who you are, what you do, and kind of why you do what you do now.
Yeah, man, totally. So first off, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I'm not going to tell you about date I was born and how much I weighed and all of that, but here's the most important thing. I was born in very mediocre circumstances. And one thing that I had that was going for me was I just had extraordinary parents who made the ultimate sacrifice. They said, hey, my parents sold everything that they had in India to send me to the US to have a better life. And that was the beginning of a lot of cool things that happened. So first off, I was in the technology world, built and grew a technology business that was then acquired. Then I spent time on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs and at Credit Suisse. And then it just so happened that me and my partner invested in a small real estate business in Beverly Hills. It was a small real estate company called Telus Properties. It had one office, 30-ish agents in Beverly Hills. And we had a chance to then buy that business and take it from one office and 30 agents to 22 offices, close to 700 agents in 5 years. So it was a 10x, and it was a true 10x in 5 years story. We were doing roughly $3.4 billion in sales, closed $5 billion in run rate, very, very high per agent productivity in the kind of Southern California, Central California market. We were then acquired by Douglas Elliman out of New York, which turned on their entire West Coast operations for Elliman, which is very cool. I then spent several years investing in a bunch of real estate companies, very similar to Sharran Street, which is cool. So for those that, are unaware, the platform that you guys offer is near and dear to my heart, because I believe that it takes what an agent should not be spending their time doing and lets experts do that, because I believe that an agent should be deeply focused on doing what they do best, which is talking to clients and negotiating deals. If they do that and everything else is handled by somebody else, even though it feels like an investment, their joy and their profitability will skyrocket, which is why I was very attracted to you and the model overall. And then over these last couple of years, I've been an investor, and I was an advisor to several big companies. I started advising several teams and the leaders at Real. I was super excited by Real for one huge reason. When I stepped in on day one, it felt like our old company Telus. We had taken it from 30 to 700 agents, and I was like, man, it feels exactly like it felt nostalgic. I told the board, I was like, it felt nostalgic. And when they made the offer to be like, hey, how can we partner together, work together? I was like, I get a chance to run a publicly traded company, which is the fastest growing publicly traded company in the world today. We just hit the 8,000 agent market Real at 45 states and 3 provinces in Canada, which is all going to continue to grow. But what I love most about Real is the real estate agent business, right, is very unique, because what used to be the place where people would go to, the water cooler, what used to be the place is not the place anymore. What used to be the place for congregation, for collaboration, for performance, for connection is now the network. The size of the network and the accessibility to the network is really important. And it's not any network. It is the culture that powers that network. And what stood out to me more than anything else was this collaborative network and this collaborative culture. And so that led me to being named president of Real. And so I'm excited to, build, grow, and scale Real in the years to come.
I'm excited to watch you do it. I want to back up a little bit and want to lay some context, because I've had so many conversations that people with people that are now with different brokerages that were a part of TELUS. They were a part of the TELUS days, and they were a part of the massive growth that you experienced in 5 years. And they speak very fondly of it. And like we have the opportunity to work with a lot of advise a lot of the agents that you advise and work with a lot of the agents that you advise, and they speak very, very fondly of the TELUS days and like kind of the training that you provided and the relationships that you built and the work that you put into the TELUS days. Like, what do you think were some of the intangibles that allowed that brokerage to do the 10x in 5 years? Or what were some of the intangibles that allowed some of these agents to essentially, like, because obviously with that came the growth for the brokerage came from the amount of agents, but also came from the high producing agents that you created in different areas. And a lot of the agents that I speak with are like that worked for TELUS Properties are like just like machines, and they've gone on to do really cool things. Like, what do you think made that intangible TELUS agent, and how do you compare it to what you're seeing right now in real?
Yeah, totally great. So I think it comes down to just one main concept, and the concept is minimum standards. You and I have talked a lot about this, and so I'll give you a very quick story. So when I graduated from college, my college roommate at that time, he had a very specific view on the world. He's like, Sharran, I want to graduate from college. I want to go to Chicago. I want to live in a doorman, full service building. I want to be able to drive a comfortable car to work in this snowy environment, which you know what that feels like being Canadian. And he goes, and I want to be able to live a comfortable life, because I would hate to go being from a college student to kind of having a struggling first job. And there's a reason why I'm telling the story. So I asked him, I was like, so what does this mean? He goes, I just need a job. I'm making up numbers here. I just need a job that if I can make $70,000 a year, then I win. I can move to Chicago. I can live downtown in a full service building, have the doorman open the door, have him pull my car out, have a great job, drive a fully loaded Honda Accord, whatever, right? And so lo and behold, what happened? He had a $70,000 baseline. That was his minimum standard. And what job did he get? $70,000.
Yeah.
A year. And good for him. He was so excited. He was so happy, right? Which I think is really powerful. But then in a few months after, something crazy happened. What happened was his sister got unwell and got sick, and a couple of things happened where she lost her job and she didn't have insurance. And now he was responsible for supporting her. So his sister moved in with him, and now she needed $30,000 to $40,000 a year worth of medical expenses that were important overall. And he had some savings, but he's like, man, if I need to go from the $70,000 job to a $120,000 job pronto to make this work. And what he did, which is super important to know, is he lifted his minimum standards. He lifted it maybe from an external perspective, but it was not a $70,000 role. It was $120,000. He needed that. And within just a couple of months, since he shifted that, he was able to find a role that got him $120,000. What's crazy is if he had stayed on the path of being at that job, entry-level job, it would have taken him 7 to 10 years to actually get a 50% bump. But he did that in under 3 months. And it was all because of the shift in the minimum standard. Now, here's the reason I'm sharing this. There's 2 ways to shift your minimum standard. Way number 1 is to have an external event force you to up your standards. Meaning, my roommate, his sister was it was an external event that he had no choice but to raise the minimum standard. But second is, hopefully someone listening right now is like, you know what? I can just change it by choice. A lot of times on my 5 a.m. club call, I call it greatness is a choice. You and I can instantly change and lift our minimum standards right now. And I think that's what we did at TELUS. Meaning, I would walk into a sales training or a sales meeting or an office meeting and say, hey, you, the agent, has to be at least as good as me when you're delivering this material, right? Like at least as good as me. And it's
large minimum standard.
but that forces everybody to do better, which is really, really powerful, right? So when they can see me handle objections 7 ways to Sunday, when they can see other people saying, man, this person went from doing 20 million a year to 100 million a year, how did they do that? It sets a new level of minimum standard. So I think what was if you stripped it all away, the secret sauce was every single TELUS agent saw a new minimum standard without it being thrust or forced upon them like it happened to my roommate. And that instead of waiting for an external stimulus to raise their standard, they internally raised it quickly. And because of that, it was so much easier to perform better, which allowed not just a culture of collaboration, but a culture of performance. And a culture of performance is exhilarating. A culture of performance is exciting. A culture of performance is when accountability is invited. A culture of performance is when I can get into a sales meeting and only talk about skill building and everyone is excited to be there.
Yeah.
Raising our minimum standards, may it be with our health, our wealth, our income, our lives, our relationships, whatever it is, I think it's our choice. And that one concept, I actually think made us be one of the, a Cinderella brokerage.
Yeah. Everything you just described about the minimum standard, and it's funny because I as we were headed down to one of your events back a couple months ago, me and Vikram, we were in a car with an agent who, had worked with you at TELUS Properties, and he talked about minimum standards, and like, it just kind of rung in my head of like how important that is to kind of raise your minimum standard, whether it be in health, nutrition, finances. It just gets you thinking about how you can actually get to where you want to go in your life and your business. You're now with Real, and as the president of Real, you said that there is a lot of feeling of TELUS Properties in what you're currently doing in Real. What if somebody is like thinking about Real, or they're thinking about, it's like they're in an environment right now where they don't have an opportunity. You say to me all the time, there's only two ways to change your life. You either change your environment or you upgrade the people that are in it. Yep. Somebody out there that's like really thinking, like really trying to raise their minimum standard as a real estate agent, like maybe can you describe what you're already experiencing, what you're feeling at Real as a company, being a president? What is that? How does it feel very similar to the TELUS Property days?
Yeah, so it's very hard to build. So there's only two things that if a real estate agent can plug into two things, if you plug into these two things, you'll change your life forever. One, you need a culture of collaboration, because you can walk into an office every single day and look at every other agent in that office as your competition. If you do, you're done. It is the death of you, because you're like, oh, Cody's the number one producer. Oh, the brokerage owners are going to have favoritism towards Vikram. Oh, Andrew's really great, but she controls the market. Sharran may give him all the referrals. Like it will tell a lot of stories in your head. And that actually happens when you walk into an office and there's no culture of collaboration. When you don't believe that you are a key part of the whole, it's really, really tough. And I think that's what I saw at Real. And it's this concept of one Real, the idea that is everybody together wins better. And it's easier said than done, which is actually why I will tell you, when people tell me you guys have been growing really fast, I actually think we have not been growing fast enough. And the reason is, if we had to just grow agent count, it would be easy to, quote, add bodies. It would be very easy to do that. We'd make money, we'd add bodies, but you would dramatically dilute the culture. And a culture of collaboration is just as fast as people join, people will leave too. But a culture of collaboration is not enough.
Yeah.
A culture of collaboration, it literally is you all get together and it is essentially a drinking club. That's what a culture of collaboration is, if in and of itself. What really makes it work is a culture of performance. But a culture of performance, when you combine it with a culture of collaboration, super powerful things happen. Here's what I mean by the culture of performance. There's a vast majority of Real agents who choose to give back to Real. They say, hey, I learned this. I'm going to do a training on landing pages. I learned this. I'm going to do a training on scripts. Normally what they would do is they would only teach their team. So if you and I had a team of 10 people, we would only do it for our teams. What the folks at Real do is they pour right back into everybody at Real. So if you're inside the Real infrastructure and ecosystem, you can access every training every single top producer is doing for the benefit of you, which fundamentally is powerful, because the old school offices, like the traditional brokerages, one office in Beverly Hills will do a training and no other office in the entire country can see that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, because that's lost, that the knowledge is lost, that institutional knowledge is lost. And so when I compare and think about, kind of the brokerage platform for the future, I always am looking at, is there a culture of collaboration where people feel connected to a whole? Is there a culture of performance where people are really driving each other to raise their minimum standards? When you have those two things, growth is not just inevitable, but insane profitability and success for all parties involved gets really fun.
We are now entering what you call a skills-based market. I feel like you and I have had this conversation about, hey, we were in a momentum-based market, 2020, 2021. And I think a lot of like top performers in multiple brokerages understand that 2022 numbers were like back half of the year were really tough. Like a lot of people struggled. What does that mean to you to enter a skills-based market? I know that you're a big email guy. You're big on driving the database. We've chatted about this, about getting obsessed around something in your business that will drive growth and drive performance. What does a skills-based market look like to you versus maybe talking a little bit about 2020, 21? And will the same principles that they did in 2021 be sufficient enough for going into 2023?
No, the pandemic agent, we will not survive in the years to come. It is impossible. But I think what has also happened to even great agents is pre-pandemic, they were great agents. The pandemic just switched the mindset, saying, whoa, I'm gonna run as the market's moving, and let's just get as many of these deals done. We're reverting to a skills-based market, and all I mean by that is a couple of things. Number one, whoever has the biggest pipeline wins. We are not when a momentum market puts the deal front and center. A pipeline puts the relationship front and center. You need a relationship to get paid, especially when the options are not easily visible immediately. That's why having the biggest pipeline wins. So fundamentally, if we take that one idea, whoever has the biggest pipeline wins, what does this mean? If the agent listening can just say, okay, I have 1,200 people in my database. Over the next 12 months, if I grow that 1,200 to 2,400, as double the size of the database, in essence, if they can get their cadence of communication right, their business should double. Okay. Literally, that's it. Because if I started my business today and I had 0 people in my database, I'm just literally hustling to do what? To add more people to my database so that I can build a pipeline. People forget that whoever has the biggest pipeline wins. Because when you wake up in the morning, our job is to shove as many people into this pipeline as possible. Because when you start putting people into this pipeline, you start approaching it that is a skill, right? And I can't put Cody in my pipeline without having the skill to put Cody in my pipeline. Because if I called Cody from a skill perspective and I cold called you and I was talking about real estate and I didn't have the skill to influence you to take the next call with me, or me to drop something off at your house, or me to actually say, hey, should we do another call? Or me to actually meet for a cup of coffee, I have lost that call. So the ability to actually have the skill to make the call, to have the contact, to then put them in the pipeline, and then have the skill to nurture them from stage to stage to stage in the pipeline is really, really important. And this brings us to point number 2, which is the days of a momentum-based market involves this one fundamental thing, which is a client knows exactly what they want and exactly when they want it, which is right now, right? So when they want something right now, we become order takers, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. The real estate industry gets really mad by being like, "Oh, I don't want to be an order taker." Well, it's okay. Like, someone thought about you and called you. Like, if I'd been nurturing you as a potential seller, Cody, for 3 years, and you call me and said, "Sharran, I want to sell my house," that's an order. That's fine, right? Yeah. But this takes me to the understanding of a skills-based market, which is and you and I have talked about this, which is what makes a 5-star prospect. Like, this is why a lot of people should work with Sharran Street, because the 5-star prospect is really important. So I think every single person should memorize this. When someone gets a lead is just a person with contact information. That's all it is. That's literally, there's nothing else, right? But to me, when I get a lead, they are a 0-star prospect. There's nothing. There's nobody there. Somebody wanted something, they raised their hand. So if they're a 0-star prospect, why do we get mad and say, oh, online leads suck? It's because we don't know how to take them through skill-wise to the 5-star prospect. So everyone should write this down. Number 1 is, star 1 is, are they willing to engage in a dialogue? Until someone is willing to engage in a dialogue, you don't have anything. Like, they're not willing to even talk to you. Like, why are we mad about anything, right? Like, that's number 1. Number 2, are they friendly and collaborative? If they're willing to engage in a dialogue and friendly and collaborative, they're already a 2-star prospect. That's great, because nobody that doesn't want to do something is not friendly and collaborative. If you wanted something, you're actually going to be calm and actually have a conversation. If you didn't want to do something, you're not going to be calm and have the conversation. So being friendly and collaborative. Number 3 is that they know what they want. knowing what they want is really important. And most of the time people don't know what they want. So it's our job to tease it out. Until you get to knowing what they want, until then, you don't even have a 3-star prospect. So for us to say online leads suck is terrible because you've not even done the skill-based work to get to a 3-star prospect. Number 4 is they know when they want it. And after they know when they want it, you have to have enough skills that they actually want you to help them. So that makes a 5-star prospect. The skill of stuffing the pipeline is taking them from 0 stars, which is just a hand raise, to being able to engage in a dialogue, being friendly and collaborative, to knowing what they want, right? And I think that, it makes a ton of sense for you and me to talk about it. Fundamentally, the Sharran Street service they get people to a 3-star prospect right away when you make the call. Like when you hand me a warm transfer, they're willing to engage in a dialogue, they're friendly and collaborative, and they know what they want. Now it's my job. All I have to do as an agent is to say, awesome, thank you for the transfer, Cody. Hey, Jimmy, Cody said you're looking at this and this, and you're looking at this and this. Is that right? Yes. Now it's a skill base to get them from what they want to when they want it, right? And even that freaks agents out because the job there is a skill to get them to a 4-star prospect. So anytime I talk to anybody, I always tell them, hey, look at your database and look at it and say, do you know everybody that is 3 stars and up and 3 stars and down? If you know everybody that's 3 stars and up, spend all your time on those because they know what they want. And we just have to figure out when they want it. If we just get those 2, you're sitting in a very, very big pipeline environment. So by skill, what I mean by that is getting somebody to go from hand raise, which is a 0 star, all the way from willing to engage in dialogue, being friendly and collaborative, knowing what they want, knowing when they want it, and they wanting you to help them. That skill, the top agents know how to do. And if you know how to do that, you will print money for the rest of your life.
But Sharran, I hear this a lot. I hear this a lot, especially in the lead gen space. I have a database of 5,000, 10,000 people, but I am afraid that I am sending them too many emails, or I'm afraid that I'm nurturing them too often. You've created, in my opinion, one of the best nurturing campaigns we call Deal of the Week. I'm really curious to know your thoughts on nurture and your thoughts on how often should I be emailing my database? How often should I be communicating? What are some things that I can do in order to, if I, speaking to the agent that has the database, I've done YLOPO, I've done bold leads, I've generated a ton of leads, I have a massive database, but I just don't know how to, get them further down the pipeline. What have you been able to do? What have you been able to kind of curate in order to get those people to kind of raise their hand, to get them to a point where they're a 5-star prospect? There's an element of obviously skill, being able to effectively communicate your value to the end consumer. But what does effective nurture in the real estate space look like for you?
Yeah. So I actually don't even think that anybody should buy any leads until I'm a big fan of, by the way, I should say that differently. I'm a big fan of buying leads because you are fast tracking your pipeline building. That's all it is. If you and I can get to 1,000 leads over 3 years, or we can get to 1,000 leads in 3 days. It's actually the same thing. They're both 0-star prospects. That's what people don't understand. They're like, oh my gosh, I built this entire database myself with my own blood, sweat, and tears. You are an idiot. There's a reason for that, right? What we're saying is we don't mind mortgaging our future to make us feel better about ourselves. If someone told me, hey, I'll give you 1,000 leads today, and you have to pay $1,000 for it, or I can give you 1,000 leads over time and you don't have to pay $1,000, but there's the same exact leads, I would rather have them all up front right now so that I can nurture them. And so the first part is whoever has the biggest pipeline wins. The biggest pipeline starts with whoever has the base of people to start communicating with. But the second thing that I think people miss out is it's not just nurture. It is understanding this concept of lifetime nurture. We have to flip to the idea, the worst thing that I see in the real estate industry is, oh yeah, let's put our database through 10 days of pain. Think about that for a second. We're literally telling them that I'm going to put somebody through a sequence that is painful for 10 days. Why would anybody want to work with you? Would you put your grandma through 10 days of pain? No, you wouldn't, right? So the idea that we actually give these campaigns names that are terrible for the consumer is mind-blowing to me. But lifetime nurture is us saying, hey, until Cody in my database unsubscribes or quits or does not want to hang out with me anymore, I'm going to stay politely persistent, delightfully persistent in all of this. So understanding lifetime nurture is one thing, but how you implement lifetime nurture is really important. So here's a fun stat, right? The average consumer, not you and me, the average consumer in their personal inboxes, most people have 2 to 3 email addresses, generally at least 2, one kind of work and one kind of personal. The average consumer gets 97 emails in their inbox every single day. So the traditional email newsletter, which by the way, I'm going to highly recommend that nobody should do, because when someone gets a newsletter, when we get a newsletter, it's like American Express newsletter, delete. It's marketing. Like we instantly go to marketing, right? So if the average consumer is getting 97 emails a day, rounded up to 100, that means if we're doing twice a month newsletter, they see us in their inbox one every 1,500 emails.
Yeah.
There are stuff that I have on my to-do list today that I don't remember. How am I going to remember 1,500 emails deep? And literally the person seeing it be like, oh, it says newsletter, delete, right? And so as soon as they click the email, big picture shows up, delete. Because now we're thinking that they don't want to hear from us. In fact, what they want is they want good stuff. I will tell you right now, I went 3+ years, Cody, writing a daily email. A recent survey said for a brand that someone is connected with, 26% of them are completely good getting a daily value-based email. Daily, right? Now, the reason why a lot of people don't want to write daily emails is because they are not Seth Godin. They don't want to write the daily email because it's hard to produce that good content every single day, right? Which is why I talk a lot about content rotation, because, that people don't want a new house every single day. Additionally, this whole, I nurture my database. I just put them on e-alerts. I went in my MLS. I've set up a search. I put Cody and his team on an e-alert, and I'm done. E-alerts are dumb. Like, no one wakes up in the morning and says, I'm so excited that Sharran sent me an e-alert today. So excited that Sharran sent me more homes for sale. Nobody cares about that, because the crazy part is the average person that has been searching for homes is subscribed to 7 e-alerts, including the portals. Like, my wife gets Zillow e-alerts, Redfin e-alerts, some random Boomtown e-alerts, some random commission e-alert, and random email agents emailing and stuff. Like, it's all noise, right? What she's focusing on is stuff that she's connected to. So the fundamental thing there from a lifetime nurture perspective is, if we think we're going to get through and build nurture or a relationship with people one every 1,500 emails, we're dramatically mistaken.
Okay.
Right? So now, could you start and do daily emails? Probably not. Is that too much? It's only too much if you can't create good content. But I like the idea of getting people information that they immediately can't get anywhere else. Now, can a consumer get information about a real estate market through Zillow or some other site? Sure. But do they have to go digging? Yes. Yeah. If we can just package that information so that it is not package something that is not easily accessible to the market, but if we can package it so that it's easily accessible to the consumer, we have won. That is our job, right? So a consumer looks at it and says, oh, these 3 stats, I would not even know where to go get this. That's a really good value add. So one of the things that I love talking about, which I know Sharran Street implements for all its clients, is this idea of deal of the week. And no one wants to unsubscribe from a deal of the week, because even like my daughter, who's 6 years old, is a co-CEO of 100unicorns.com, which is a cool site that sells all the unicorn products. We do a deal of the week, which is, no one wants to unsubscribe from unicorn apparel or unicorn bean bags or unicorn beanies or unicorn. Everybody wants a deal of the week, and people get FOMO on deal of the week. You want your clients to have the FOMO-based relationship with you, because they're like, man, I get all these deal of the weeks. If that's the deal of the week, I should probably call Cody, because he probably has a sense of the market. It actually shows that you have mastery of the market because you have something cool to offer. If agents did nothing else and they just worked with you guys and you did a deal of the week for them, and that was the only once a week nurture they got, that is significantly better than 10 days of pain or e-alert. So this concept of like lifetime nurture is really, really powerful.
The amount of conversations that deal of the week create for the agents that religiously send it every week is just crazy. Like, it's just, it's a conversation starter. And we talk about, all conversion happens in conversation. It's like that really at the end of the day what deal of the week is. And even the webinars that you and I have done this year, where people are when you taught how to do deal of the week, I got tons of emails from agents being like, oh my God, this is so good. I can't believe I got 30 email replies from deal of the week. I'm like, you better do it next week too. And the week after that, and the week after that, because it can make a massive difference. I wanna get your take on something, with you being the president of Real, 8,000 agents, something that we've been really focused on as a company over the last I would say like 6 to 8 months, working with like going to Latitude, going to NAREP events. I spoke at a NAREP event and I heard a really interesting stat that 70% of home buyers over the next 20 years are going to be Hispanic, are going to be Spanish speaking people. What is your take on a team? Should that be a focus over the next, 20 years, building a team? Like, how can an agent that potentially doesn't necessarily have, like, it doesn't speak Spanish, like I don't speak Spanish, but I surround myself with people who are Spanish speaking, and we're encouraging a lot of the agents that we advise in order to partner with Spanish speaking agents so that they can serve the community at a high level. Like, what is your take around like the Spanish speaking market in the United States right now? Should this be a focus? What's your take right now, like specifically with Real? I'm just curious to kind of get some of your insight.
Yeah, totally. So, while I'm not up on all the stats overall, but I will tell you my overall thinking around this, which is very philosophical and foundational. Which is, real estate is a optically simple thing, but operationally complex thing, right? It's optically simple because everyone's like, oh yeah, I can just go on an app like a Zillow or a Redfin, and of course I can buy this house. But that it's optically very simple to it have this voyeuristic tendencies of stuff, right? And that's why real estate gets a lot of eyeballs on it. But it's operationally extremely complex. And when something is operationally complex, going to the DMV and getting your license is operationally complex, but it's not your entire life savings or your entire net worth tied into a house. When something is operationally complex and has a huge financial component, there's a key feeling that is important to deliver a result, and that is safety. Safety is so important because when people feel safe, they will open up about their lack of knowledge of the complexity and about the vulnerability around this heavy asset that they're talking about. And how we kind of bridge the safety gap is by getting to people and communicating with them and connecting with them in the most rawest human form. And so if that means that a family that has Hispanic roots or whatever is instantly feels more comfortable from a language perspective, they're going to win. They're just going to win, right? And so a lot of my thinking around this is, how can we stack unfair advantages on our team? And that unfair advantage could be if a team is working in a market that has growing a melting pot of cultures. Just either you have your ISAs or salespeople or Sheridan Street, communicate with folks in that way, or you have a resident expert from a language perspective on your team, because it instantly increases safety. And when you get safety, the person that is dealing with a complex and high kind of dollar transaction instantly feels safer, that they can communicate better, that they can think through and talk through ideas better. So it would be immature of us to not think about how to get more safety faster. Like, I'll give you a very simple example. I see this quote all the time, which is, fame is the most efficient business model. And it's not an egotistical thing. What it does is, the more, folks see you, like Cody, the agent in Santa Monica, if you see more people see your name, your face, your sign, etc., what happens is, they are just, when they invite you to their living room, they just feel safer. And that is no different than a language conversation. That's no different than the first reach out. That's no different than having a team that can allow you to handle that. So I would offer that now more than ever, we should be thinking about the safety component and everything that we can bring from an unfair advantage perspective, especially a simple thing like language, to get a safety conversation or a safety component, dramatically increases our chance of winning more business.
I love that. And I love how you tied that back into fame is the most efficient business model. I want to wrap up with this. I want to wrap up with brand. You say, another thing you say often is, your brand is your invisible hand. I had the opportunity to get to listen to both you and Jason Capital for 2 days, and we talked about content creation. We talked about brand. We talked about things that like get my head spinning around hooks and bottom right ideas, and just creating better content that resonates more with people. how important is brand and content creation headed into 2023 for the real estate agent that wants to create buyer safety?
The easiest way to think about it is just rewind 30 years. How did an agent in Santa Monica, California, where you are right now, create buyer and seller safety with what they were doing? Here's what they did. They did ads in the newspaper. They dropped off flyers. They sent postcards. And, they would door knock on doors and drop off stuff. Why did they do that? It was really simple because people read newspapers, people checked their mailboxes, people answered their doors, and people answered their phones. Fundamentally, they did that. Why? Because all their attention was in newspapers, in their mailboxes, on their phones, and at their doors. All we're saying now is, hey, do all of those still work? Sort of. But the attention of people is not on newspapers, is not at the door. I don't open the door. I don't read newspapers. I don't answer my phone. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is my attention in my limited time is elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it's elsewhere, meaning it's on this device. And since it's on this device, it's our job to find a way to be where the attention is. And the world has given us, I think we live in some of the greatest time that we could ever imagine, because can you imagine being born, 30 years earlier than you did? There was no innovation that happened. Nothing. There was pre-internet. Nothing happened. Yeah. All our innovations happen now because now crazy things are happening. We have a chance to do more with the attention, right? If attention is a currency, now we have to find a way to position ourselves inside of that attention so that we can be the top of mind choice. That's all this is. So tomorrow, if VR glasses become where people spend all their time, we now have to be on those channels. So to me, it's less about brand building. It's more about finding a way so that we can be strategic about where people's attention is and spend more time on those channels. Now, we can run ads on social media, which your team does really well for people. But for folks but what's more important is Tesla as a company has 100th the number of followers as Elon Musk, whether you like him or not. It's that brands do better when they have a face.
Yeah.
And since brands do better when they have a face, so does a real estate agent in the community. Their brand does better when they have a face. People poo-poo having your face on a bus bench. People poo-poo that. But it's actually why do agents continue doing that? One, they feel a little better about themselves because it's fine. And I say that to agents, you feel a little bit better of yourself and do whatever makes you feel better about yourself, because you know why? You'll perform better. But instantly, as me, Sharran, living in the neighborhood, drive by that same bus bench over and over and over again, the only name that is in my head is Cody May. So when I'm thinking about a safety choice, what am I doing? I'm making that call. Funny, no one is going to memorize that phone number on the bus bench, but they see Cody May with that photo and it's constantly be there because that's where the attention is. That's why I believe that brand is so important right now, because the current platforms favor people building brands.
Yeah.
And if they're favoring people building brands and the attention is the currency, we get a chance to build a brand for free. That is crazy. All that they're saying is make more content and put it up from your iPhone for free with a free app to put up captions. If you and I had to go get a TV, media, newspaper, etc., it would totally break the bank. We won't need any of that kind of budget, but we have so that the budget is not put in paying for the platform. The budget is now put in the creativity of the content that we're putting on the platform, because everyone is creating the content and only good creative stands out. So right now, I think we're while there's more and more attention on the phones and on social media platforms, we have a chance to totally get an unfair advantage by being more present and adding more value there, because it creates insane safety.
Yeah, you opened me up this year. That's been probably one of my biggest focuses has been brand building, personal brand building. After that conference with you, Jason, just you guys providing so much value. Sharran, I want to wrap up here, and I just want to say thank you more than anything. It's the amount of value that you provided to people that are kind of in our ecosystem over the last year. Every single time we do a webinar, people are always number one, wanting to show up, and number two being where's the replay? And number three being thank you so much for getting Sharran live to talk about what you do. Because whenever you show up with excellence, and for me, what you've done is modeled what raising your minimum standard really looks like and how to be a high performer, but also by balancing life. And, even when I got sick in November, like you messaged me to be like, just chill out, bro. Like just chill out for a couple of days. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Use this kind of medium to be like, thank you for modeling what it means to go deep with people, because everyone I speak to that hears the name Sharran feels like they've actually built a relationship with you, even if they haven't spent a crazy amount of time with you. And I'm lucky enough to have spent quite a bit of time with you. I just have so many conversations with real estate agents and with entrepreneurs and with business owners that you've impacted in such an incredible way. And I just want to say thank you for taking time today to chat with real estate agents, chat with our ecosystem around just so many like good things. And like, if somebody were to want to like follow you, they want to, continue to follow your journey, reach out to you, where's kind of the best place that we can kind of send them?
Yeah, I'd say first off, thank you for the kind words. I think when we put service and contribution ahead of everything else, I actually think it brings out the best in us. It wants us to show up and say, man, I got to show up and do good for Cody, because Cody's rep is on the line, not just mine. And that makes, I actually don't mind doing a poor job. No, I don't like doing a poor job, but I don't mind doing a substandard job in my trainings, but I would never do that in yours, because I think that's super powerful. So thank you for, having me on yours. I think the easiest way is two places. One, for folks to go to Instagram and just give me a quick follow. I'm sharing my best content there. With the real stuff, I'm also sharing like active ideas on how agents can do better. So I'm taking our best trainings and making them snippet size, because we are living what we're sharing and telling people to do. So if I am suggesting you write email, but don't write email, bad on me. If I'm suggesting you do videos, but I don't do videos, bad on me. We're only suggesting things that we see that are working. So jump on Instagram. I'd say that will be number one. And number two, if you are listening to this podcast and watching this and you like the podcast, I do a podcast called Business School. It's on all iTunes and all of that. So take a look at Business School. It's my best ideas that I share with everyone out there. So the Business School podcast would be the second resource.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and follow Business School, because I listen to it pretty religiously. Even though I get, even though you and I share stuff on text, I'm still absorbing like all the information that you have around investing, around your real estate, around business, and you definitely want to go check out the podcast. Sharran, I want to say thank you once again for hopping on here with me, and I want to say thank you everyone for tuning in another episode of the Our Agent Podcast. We will see you soon.